Hello and welcome back to 360 Sports. I am Luke Stefanisco, joined by Pat, Chooch, and Alec. And we're not talking about tricks, we're not talking about treats, we're just talking about fights today. This is the UFC Show. Over the last week, I had a pretty big fight. UFC 308 featured both wins from both Ilia Topuria and Khamzat Chimaev. What was your guys' favorite fight, and what are your big takeaways from this weekend?
My favorite fight of the night was the main event. I'm the biggest Max Holloway guy around. I love him to death. I watch every single thing he does, every interview, every fight. Ilia is just that good. His defense isn't that good, but like he'll find a way to hit you. He's gonna hit you hard, and he's gonna find his shots. You can't put him away. Max couldn't put him away. He's just that good. Khamzat, I'm still out a little bit. I need to see more from his striking. Last time we see him actually get tested on striking against Kamaru, who was slower at middleweight. Didn't look that great. When we saw him against Gilbert Burns striking, didn't look that great. So I need to see more from him. I still think he's a championship level fighter. Just need more.
That's fair. I think what this night showed is that Ilia and Khamzat, both of them, are going to dominate for a really long time. Especially, I think Ilia, I don't really see anybody in that division. It looks like they're working on Lopez Volk, which I think is a fun fight, but I don't think either of them could take down Ilia either. I think they're both going to be on top for a long time. And I say that with Khamzat, meaning I think he's next up in the division. I think he beats DDP. I think he's due for a really long title run as well. My favorite fight of the night was Dan Ige and Earl Murphy, though. I'm a huge Ige guy. He's an absolute warrior. He steps into fights on short notice. He showed up, gave it an absolute brawl. Thought he won, but didn't go my way, which tends to go that way. So, but great night, though. Had a lot of fun watching the fight.
I mean, yeah, and that fight, too. Ige definitely won round one, and then round 2 and 3. They could have gone really either way.
I thought he took 3.
They were so close.
It was, yeah. It's literally any way you want it, but
I thought Lerone definitely had 2. 3,
me too.
I thought it was going to be Ige until like the last minute of the fight.
Yeah,
I was like,
I know. It was unfortunate.
Man, that was a really great featherweight fight. That whole division is just super stacked with
It's so
talent
much fun.
from like top to bottom. It's crazy
So
how
fun.
much that division's improved over the last couple of years since Volk was
And
champion.
everybody in that top 15 is going to give you a great fight,
I know.
by the way. Diego Lopez. Brian Ortega might lose brain cells every single time he fights. It's just entertaining. I don't know what Masvidal Evalaev is up to. I think he has a decent shot to beat Ilia. I think he's probably the second best fighter in that division, but we'll see.
I think he's one of the better matchups.
Then also, we haven't even mentioned Shar Magomedov hitting one of the craziest knockouts of all time. The double spinning back fist to win in round 3.
Wow.
That might have been one of the greatest knockouts that we've ever seen.
It was a fantastic knockout. I don't think he's that good of a fighter. I'm going to be honest with you. I know he has the awkward stance. I know everyone thinks he's going to be the next Zabit. He's not. He telegraphs his kicks very fast. He has 0 defense. He was losing that fight up until the point where he got a knockout, which was a lucky knockout, by the way. Like, that wasn't a strategic knockout. It's not something you practice as a double spinning back fist. And he was losing on my scorecard up to that point.
Yeah, I don't think he was winning that fight. I don't think he's a great fighter either, but I think just focusing on it in a vacuum, like, that was a crazy moment. Like, that's the first time I've ever seen that type of. So shout out to that. That was a fun fight.
I mean, that was straight up a UFC 5 button spam maneuver.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure I've thrown a spinning back fist twice in UFC.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's like
spamming the
1
buttons.
a.m. just trying stuff out.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I spammed it. I like Shar. I like the fights. I like that fight. I enjoyed the entire card, and I also, it was a little heartbreaking at the end in the main event with Ilia knocking out Max. That's the first time Max has been knocked down and knocked out in his entire career, and I think that just shows how impressive Ilia is. I think he's up there cementing himself as one of the best boxers in UFC history. I think he's getting close.
I think he could be as dominant. Yeah,
I think his defense could definitely use a lot of work. I think if somebody had more power than Max, they definitely probably could have put him away. But he's just that good. That right hand's so strong. He's really quick. I mean, we've seen this guy do it to Volk. We saw him do it to Josh Emmett. Josh Emmett of all people, a 10-7, which we haven't seen in the past 6 years.
Yeah,
he's unbelievable.
I think Ilia's hands, like, it feels like when I'm watching him, it feels like I'm watching Jan when he was on that, like, little 3 or 4 fight run where it's like it feels like he just can't get touched.
Bring me back to Piotr Jan.
But yeah, another thing to say about this card, rare card where, like, I enjoyed the overall product while not a lot of the fights were close. So I want to shout that out too.
That's a good job by the UFC. But we do have another card coming up in a few weeks. UFC 309 will be happening later this month. We're only a few weeks away from it. John Jones, Stipe Miocic. How do you guys feel about the card and that fight specifically?
Well, the pound-for-pound number 1 fighter in the world, in the opinion of Dana White, will be taking on what probably is the best heavyweight of all time, Stipe Miocic. I think it's a super great fight still, even though Miocic, I believe, hasn't even fought since 2021, hasn't won a fight since COVID, which is very bizarre to even think about. Now he's fighting now.
DC3, right?
Yeah, it's DC number 3 when he gave him like the worst eye poke that I've maybe ever seen in my life.
Fraud win.
See how far his finger went to his eye?
I've seen it.
That was crazy.
It's treacherous.
Scratch the back of his cornea.
It's ridiculous. But after seeing what John Jones did last March to Cyril Gahn, I don't see how he loses this fight. He just looks so dominant at the same or at another division now in the heavyweight division. But Jones is so good on the feet, on the ground. I think he'll take him down 2 seconds.
Yeah, I think it's an absolute slaughter. What is Stipe now? I think he's 43 years old. He
that old.
His defense didn't look good against Francis the last time he fought, which was a long time ago. And John Jones is just the best fighter to ever do it. Period. He's the best at being all around. He can do everything, and I think that's just going to really hurt Stipe in that. And then I also think Charles Oliveira is going to slaughter Michael Chandler. Michael Chandler's also like 40.
Yeah,
He's old. He is the worst striker I think ever. I mean, he can hit hard.
He
but
can hit you though.
He
He
can
can catch you with
hit
one.
But God, it just doesn't look right.
No,
Like
it
you watch it, and it's just
He's just
confuses
throwing his
me.
arms out.
He's just throwing his arms out there.
I think this fight is going to be an absolute wash. I think if we got this fight like maybe even 4 years ago, I think Jones would have beat him anyways, but it would have been more entertaining. I don't think Stipe has a chance. I think it's going to look really bad. Anytime we see a fighter go out there at this age, it always looks terrible. Like I've seen this with the Diaz's a million times. Like I don't know. I think this is going to be a bad card because I think Oliveira is going to wipe the floor with Chandler. Bo Nickel, I'm excited to watch him fight, but I mean, bomb yet again. But I am excited to watch Bo. But overall, I think this card is in danger of being a stinker. I think Oliveira and Chandler can save it, but
Plus legend Jim Miller in like his 80th pro fight.
Yeah.
He's fighting.
and Chris Weidman's back.
Chris
That's
Weidman's
exciting. He can't carry a card anymore. He's 40.
If you're from Jersey,
Yeah,
throw a party.
It's great.
I mean, this card has 2 unranked fights on the main card. That is just something you don't see a lot in today's UFC.
Yeah.
I mean, they have the name value in Miocic, Jones, Oliveira, and Chandler, but it's just that these are not the fights that we want to see, and it is the truth. And I think that only way to make that Miocic and Jones fight fair is if you throw Tom Aspinall and make it a 2-on-1.
That's very fair. I think that you could say that about this entire year. There haven't been a lot of cards that have been super exciting
No, there
that I
hasn't.
really want to see. I mean, 300, greatest sporting event I've ever seen with my own 2 eyes.
That was awesome.
After that, I mean, 299 was a good card. I can't think of anything over the summer that was particularly great.
I had fun with 302, but I was there.
Yeah,
So
302
like
was-
that's the difference.
302
Like,
was an okay card.
Dustin and Islam had a fun fight at the end, but I
I'll
mean,
talk
we all
about
knew
it
how it was
later.
going to end.
I'll talk about it later.
And there's been some fights that have kind of spoiled good cards. I mean, nothing against Bilal Muhammad, but when you have a fight like against Leon where you want Leon to strike, you want Leon to do stuff, and he just doesn't. It's just not a fun fight. And
Sean O'Malley.
yeah,
versus
I have
Rob.
nothing
Yeah.
against like the grapplers in the UFC, but just sometimes you want to see a fun fight, and it just doesn't happen with some of the grappling styles you'll see in the UFC.
It's a sport we love. It happens.
Yeah, and 306 too. I mean, those 2 championship fights really just totaled down the entire momentum of that card. And that was just super disappointing.
Yeah.
Because the last 3 fights before that were super
Great.
entertaining.
Yeah.
I mean, Diego Lopez versus Brian Ortega was one of the most fun fights I've seen in a
Love that
while.
fight.
Lopez just kept going and going and going.
I-
And Ortega
I've
somehow
gonna
I've said it
deliver,
before.
bro.
It.
Always
He's
going to
just like
deliver.
Michael Chandler. He can't actually strike, but he'll hit you so many times. Like it just doesn't look right, and yet these guys keep finding ways to win fights.
What's even more insane about Diego Lopez is he got to the UFC by losing on the Contender Series.
I know.
And now he's out here beating some of the best
He
featherweights
always
in the
beat
division.
Oscar
He is-
Evalayev in his first
Chandler
fight.
archetype is the perfect explanation for him. It is. And-
Wrestle fighter
yeah.
who just wants to strike.
he's gonna try and pound you, but
Yeah.
it's not gonna look good.
Well, speaking of grappling, Bilal Muhammad just announced today that he will not be fighting at UFC 310 with a toe infection. Who should replace him and take on Shavkat Rakhmonov?
I mean, Kamaru Usman. I want to see
I'm
it.
cool
I
with
know
that.
he's
I'm
not
cool
the
with
same fighter he used to be. I know he's old. His knees are bad. But I just want to see him get back in that ring.
I'm cool with that. I said that he has to be the first call. Like Usman has earned that with the pedigree, just being
Absolutely.
around. Dana needs to call him first, see if he wants it. Maybe he doesn't, but I think he will. I think you could go to Leon, see if he wants it, but I think he's thinking that he could just kind of wait it out and the title fight will come back to him. That's what I would be thinking if I was him. Well, no, it's not. I'm not soft like Leon is, but nonetheless, I think Rakhmonov's going to beat anybody they put in there, but I like Jack Della Maddalena
I like JDM.
because he's also undefeated and he's dominated everybody they put in front of him. I love JDM. I think he could win this fight. I don't think he's going to, but I think he could beat Rakhmonov stylistically with how creative Rakhmonov's striking's got. I think that's a problem for Jack, but I think it'd be a fun fight. They could go Gary because, I mean, the name value and he could cut a promo, but I don't think he could beat Rakhmonov. So what's the
Well,
point?
he hasn't looked good lately.
Yeah.
So.
I think the most fun fight you can obviously make is JDM versus Shavkat.
Right.
These 2 guys have basically been like the same trajectory their whole career, both coming down and rising up to the top at the same time. I mean, both are super fun to watch. Like these guys finish fights. They have super
Yeah.
entertaining fights. JDM versus Kevin Holland was one of my favorite fights of last year in
Oh,
October.
that's fun.
Yeah.
He
I
just
mean,
completely destroyed him.
If we're going for the most fun fight, I think that's absolutely the case. But I think the argument for Leon or Usman is the stronger case.
I agree. They should get calls first, and I think one of them takes it.
They both earned it.
JDM would be
Just
that'd
fair.
be a fun fight.
I think Leon could be a very fun fight against Shockbot.
Yeah,
Shockbot too.
it could. I think he'd beat him. I think Leon could beat him, just because he's so determined now. He wants to get back to that rematch.
You want to talk about one of the best boxers in UFC history? Leon's up there.
I love Leon. He's one of my favorites, but I don't know. I definitely would not want to see Usman fight him because I think that's going to be the nail in the coffin for him. But
I think Dana's going to go with one of his proven guys before he goes JDM, before he goes Ian Machado Guerrero. I think he's going to go with the proven guy first for this interim title because what it's going to be, interim title, that person's going to take on Bilal eventually, which it could be a fight we want to see, it could be a fight we don't want to see.
If they throw Ian Gary in there, that is going to be a rude awakening.
It's going to be bad.
outing.
It's going to be bad.
He almost got knocked out against Jeff Neal in that second round.
That's
he took
bad,
a mean
man.
right
That's
hand.
bad.
And then against MVP, he got completely outstruck on the feet. He's
Embarrassed.
one of my favorite fighters, Ian Gary.
I don't think he should have
Man,
won that
he
MVP
looked-
fight.
I mean, that third round.
The third round, he
happened?
completely dominated.
Yeah,
Like, it was just so
I think he earned
boring.
it.
That was a sloppy.
it's boring.
second and
He's
third round,
boring,
man.
but he's
He's
good.
boring.
He's much like Bilal. If that championship fight ever happens, I'm not buying.
I'm not.
Not gonna
I'm
lie. I'm
buy
not
it. I'll
buying.
see it on SportsCenter. That way it's like that.
That's fair. All right. Well, as we know pretty dang well, being a UFC fan has its highs and the lows. And some fighters in the UFC have had highs and lows this year. So I want you guys to go around and give me your UFC fighter that has had a high and your UFC fighter that has had a low this year. Pat, get us
I'm up
started.
first. Yep.
Kick it off.
All right. So for my most disappointing one, this is going to ruffle some feathers, which is pretty understandable. I have Islam Makhachev. I don't know what this guy does for the UFC. He's not. He doesn't promote it. Oh, we got Renato Moicano first. He's the most promising. I love this guy. He beats everybody. He's beating guys that no one thought he was going to beat. Beats Benoit Saint Denis. He beats Jalen Turner, two guys that were ranked both in the top 10. And everybody wrote him off their cards a couple years ago. He wasn't ranked. He went down to featherweight. Now he's back up at lightweight, and he's beating everybody, and he's doing the best promos. He's not a UFC champion by any stretch of the means. He's just fun, and everybody loves him. He's Money Moicano. And then for the most disappointing, I have Islam Makhachev. One fight a year is what we get out of this guy. And they're not great.
No,
They're like Dustin made that fight great, but he doesn't do anything spectacular. I'll talk more about him later because I have him for something else, but he just disappoints me year in and year out. It's not something you want to see from a pound-for-pound number one or a champion.
I agree. Islam has been super disappointing to me. Even watching that fight in
Log
person, like I was yelling at him to do something.
Log jamming a division. I hate when it
The way he
happens.
ended the fight was really cool with that ankle pick, but it's watching Islam's
And it's so bad. He cleared the division super easily too, because I think he's far more talented than everyone else.
I think
We'll get
there's
to
a
that.
guy.
Unless
I think there's a
way
guy.
about Armin, then I
I
understand.
feel very different.
Yeah.
But
You get
am I
one.
next?
You get one fight a year, but you get some good banter with DC.
Yeah.
That's always a fun thing to listen to.
Absolutely.
All right, Chooch, take it away. Oh, sorry, Alec.
Alex.
Jumping the gun.
All right,
Yeah.
so I believe we're going high first. So the fighter that I thought had a super high 24 is obviously Ilia Topuria. I mean, you knock out both of the featherweight greatest of all times in the same calendar year. How do you not become fighter of the year after that? Ilya knocked out Volkanovski, knocked out Holloway, both in super great fashion too. I think he's down the scorecard on both of these fights too. Came out, got his boxing done super well. Looks like the best boxer maybe of all time in that division too. Great head movement, and he just got the win over both of them in super, super incredible fashion. And he's set up for a great 2025 too, whether it's against Volk again, whether against Diego Lopez, maybe even Josh Emmett gets another fight, or Yair Rodriguez. I think he beats all of them. He's super smooth on the ground, took down Holloway, and basically did whatever he wanted with him on the ground. And he had a lot of trouble getting up from what I saw. And he just might be the most all-around complete fighter in the UFC right now. And then looking at what fighter I thought had the worst 2024 or lowest 2024 is obviously Benoit Saint Denis. He came in as a favorite against the number 3 lightweight in Dustin Poirier and came out and just did not perform how he thought he was going to in that second round. Just completely ran out of gas, took some really bad headshots, and that's what obviously led to him losing again later in September when he headlined UFC Paris against Renato Moicano, who you just talked about. And I mean, Moicano in that fight just mauled him in that first round. And the doctors are lucky that they came in, or I guess he's lucky that the doctors came in and stopped that fight in the second round, because I think if that fight goes 3, 4, or 5 rounds, he walks out with a lot worse damage. And he was such a hyped up prospect. He was the favorite in that one too. And he just lost so much hype after that Rafael Fiziev knockout that he had last year. And looking towards the future, I don't really know where he goes from here. When you listen to guys like Moicano and Poirier, you got to take some more worse fights down the rankings. Maybe we see him fight Patty, but I think he'll even be lucky to get a fight like that. And it's really rough to see Benoit Saint Denis have such a year like this when he was just hyped up to be such a big prospect and maybe even contend for the title.
He's also always making excuses for himself.
Yeah,
like
you
after
can't
fight.
say
thing about a
you have
fighter.
staph infection and then go out there and fight the night before.
And then we said it the day after. He's like, "Oh, I had staph." I hate when fighters do that.
Me
well, then
too.
say it before. We're not going to feel as
Or
bad.
don't
for you.
fight.
Yeah.
Or don't fight.
You shouldn't
We'll-
fight if you're not your best.
If you
I'll
said it
always stand
beforehand,
by
we'll be
that.
like, "Well, okay, then we understand." But don't say it after because it just takes away what someone else did.
And Moicano became an enemy of Paris on that one.
Yeah,
All right, Chooch. I've had it.
So starting with my high, I went with Brandon Royval. And Brandon Royval at the end of 2023 fought against Pantoja for a title fight. He lost. How did he respond in 2024? He comes back, he fights Tatsuro Taira and Brandon Moreno, two of the most dangerous fighters in the division. And he wins 2 dog fights, split decisions. He loves that type of fight. He's going to show up when the lights are absolute brightest. I love Brandon Royval. I thought this year was incredible for him. I mean, he could have just laid down, but he went after 2 of the hardest fights in the division. Could have had easier matchups. But yeah, I thought it was a great year for Brandon Royval. And I'll follow it up with my low, which is unfortunately my favorite fighter, Israel Adesanya. It's a tough pill to swallow, but it seems like his best times are behind him. After dropping the belt twice within the span of a year to Strickland and Pereira, Izzy came back in August of this year, fought DDP in a fight that I thought he was winning through 3 rounds, but maybe it was a toss-up. Some people will probably tell you DDP was winning. That's fine. But round 4 lets DDP come out, walk him down, take his neck, and it was tough to watch. It's hard for me to admit, but I think his best days are behind him. It seems like now he's waiting on Alex to come back and fight. Like, that's not going to happen. Alex has moved on to bigger and better things. He's sitting on his couch, and it's been a rough year as an Izzy fan. I'll tell you that much.
I can't hate on that fact.
Yeah.
It's going to be very disappointing when we see Kyle Barallo potentially maul him in a fight night sometime in 2025.
Next time he comes back, if he keeps waiting, it's going to look real bad, I think, because he looked rusty against DDP.
He looked very rusty. I still think he was winning those rounds, but I understand how you say it's a toss-up.
I think it was a toss-up. I thought he was winning, but if he takes more time off, it's definitely not going to help his cause. He was so fresh always from being so active, and that was my favorite part about him. And he took that time off. He didn't look the same at all.
He pointed at the ground where he wanted to get submitted. That's what I like to say. That's what he did.
So he had some weird excuse for doing that, and it wasn't like, let's fight here. He said like slipped or something.
One of my
Get submit
favorites, he loves a good excuse.
He
also.
loves a good
So
excuse. And crying.
Yes, he does.
All right, well, I think I'll go give my takes.
There we go.
So my high, this is a little bit of a personal one, but I think he had a good year and one good fight. Paddy the Batty Pimblett. Last year, tough unanimous decision to Tony Ferguson. He won that fight. Didn't look all that impressive. This year, comes out against King Green, submits him in the first round. One of the sicker submissions I think I've seen in a long time. I love Paddy. I love Paddy as a person. I love Paddy as a fighter. I just love when he trash talks on the mic. It's one of my favorite things to listen to him talk. I also love that he proceeds to get fat when he doesn't cutting weight for a fight. I love that. Paddy the Fatty. But I love Paddy. And I hope that 2025 will be an even bigger year for him to maybe move up in the rankings and eventually down the line contend for a title. Now, for my low, I have to go with the Sugar Show, Sean O'Malley. This year, 2 fights, 2 title defenses. Beats Chito Vera by unanimous decision. But it's just a fight that's weird to me because people were hyped up. He's going to knock out Cheeto. He's going to finish Cheeto. And he doesn't. He hits him with a nasty knee but can't finish the fight. So then the alarm bell started to go off. Then he fights Maravishvili, and he just gets absolutely dominated. It looks like he does not even want to be there. And it's just a disappointing way for a reign of a guy that I was excited to see hold the title to end. And I hope that things can get better, but he's denying that he lost that fight. I don't know how you can deny you lost that fight. You got absolutely dominated for 5 rounds. But I mean, that's just who O'Malley is. He's a character. Maybe he'll find his way back. I don't know. He needs to work on a lot of things.
Give him Corey. We all want to see it.
Oh, I know. That's what I
We all
want
want to see
to.
it.
That was a bad fight against Marab, but I think if he gets it back, it could look a lot different. And the Cheeto fight to me was one of the most impressive striking performances I've ever watched.
We had a
And
show
he
after
didn't
that.
fall. Yeah,
And I said it's one of the greatest offensive performances we've
he
ever
didn't
seen.
stay down, but wow, that was special. The Marab fight was very disappointing as a fan.
I got a question for you. Did you say that Patty has a chance of winning the UFC belt?
No. I said move him in the rankings.
He
and
wants
contend.
to see him contend.
all right, that's
Contend.
fair.
I like that.
I didn't say he's a chance of winning. I just like to see him contend for
No,
it.
Patty,
I do like Patty.
I don't, but he impressed me a lot this year. I'll say that. He's a lot better fighter than I thought he was.
He has the mouthpiece to be kind of a guy you see
He
fighting
does, yeah.
for a title,
Yeah,
I
he
think.
does.
And he's the type of guy that UFC would push.
I don't know who he's going to beat in the top 15.
Well, speaking of belts,
find out.
we all have a person that we think are going to lose their belt in the next year. So I'll send it back over to Pat to start us off for who he thinks is going to lose the belt.
I'm doubling down. I don't like you at all. Islam bothers me so much. He hasn't done anything. Everybody says he's the most dominant lightweight we've ever seen. He's not Khabib, by the way. Remember, he went to a 5-round fight with Volk that there's an argument that Volk did win that fight pretty handedly. He also didn't give us a great showing against Dustin. I know he was winning those rounds, but Dustin was putting up a good fight. Yeah, he took care of Volk the second time. But if we get another Oliveira fight, who knows how that's going to go. And I think Armin seriously has a good chance. That fight's probably going to get booked around February. They fought already, and it was very
It's a good
close.
fight. I know. I'm excited about that one.
Yeah, I mean, the second Volk fight was on short notice. And
Yeah.
I love Volk, but he should have never taken that fight.
No, he
There was
shouldn't
just
have.
zero chance he should have
I
taken
think Armand could definitely. I think he's the only person in that division who could beat Islam, but I think he can. I've been so out
Charles
on
got
Charles.
mauled that first
Yeah,
fight.
I've been out on
I
Charles.
don't care.
He has a big fan base, but I'm not a big Charles guy.
I'll live by the sword, die by the sword.
Fair enough. All right, Alec, who's dropping their belt next year?
I think the man that drops their belt is Merab Dvalishvili. This man gets away with some very, very lucky fights. I don't think he beat Peter Yan. You can't take down a man or attempt 40 plus takedowns in a fight and be considered champion. That is boring fighting. I don't care. You can say you have to mix up the martial arts. Well, if you're only mixing in wrestling and no pounding, then what are you really doing out there? And I think that Sugar Sean O'Malley fight was a lot closer than people think. I think you could give Sean O'Malley round 1 and round 5, and then round 3, a little 50-50. That's all I'm
I
going to
want
say.
to agree with you. I don't know.
It's a little 50-50. I'm telling you, if you go back and you really nitpick a bunch of iffy pitter-patter punches that Merab was doing, it's a lot closer than you think. And then also, how can I talk about Ubran Nurmagomedov?
Yeah,
I think this man would absolutely destroy Merab. He is so big for that division, so quick on the feet, which I was very surprised by. And then obviously the wrestling from Dagestan. You cannot compete with that at all.
Sambo wrestling master.
This man will not be a champion in 2025. And if he is, it's because he was injured for the entire year.
I will agree with you on the fact that O'Malley had a very winnable fight. Like, Merab didn't look great. He didn't do a lot.
No, he didn't. I agree. I don't think he's going to be. I hope Sean gets another title shot and takes it back, but I don't think Merab's going to be for that long. Merab was. I tried to pick Merab before I made my pick. I'll tell you that much.
I'm the biggest Merab hater there is.
I actually tried to pick Islam too.
So hard to bet. I hate every champion we have right now. I'm going to be honest.
I especially hate the next one, who is Bilal Muhammad, aka remember the name, aka the Midnight Lullaby. He's coming on for the main card and he's sending you to sleep. It's perfect timing. I think Bilal loses first out of all these guys. Now that I talked myself into it, because I think he's the weakest champion we have on roster. So just taking that and taking the fact that he's in a division with a bunch of young, hungry guys. We talked about JDM, Gary, Rakhmonov, and then vets like Leon. I think if Leon gets that fight again, he's going to win it. Usman, I think, could beat him. I don't think he will, but I would love to see the fight. I definitely think Usman could win that. I just think Bilal is in deep water with the division that he represents, and it's not necessarily his fault. It is, because he's not good enough to be a champion, in my opinion. But here he is. He proved me wrong in that. So I guess we'll see what he does against some of these younger guys, because I think they're all going to give him problems.
He cried about it for 3 years. Not going to get a title shot.
I know.
They just said Midnight Lullaby. Puts everybody
Midnight
to sleep except for
Lullaby,
his
dude.
opponent.
It's perfect, though. It's 1 a.m. You got to doze off. They throw Bilal out there. That's money.
I will say Bilal's been through the mud, though. He has some incredible wins. Leon Edwards, Gilbert Burns before he got washed.
The first
Sean
Leon one
Brady was a strange knockout, but he knocked him out. Vicente Luque when he was good. Stephen Thompson when he was good. Damian Maia was at the very end of his career, but still good win. It's so strange. Bilal just keeps winning fights, but I kind of have to agree with you, too. I mean, he's 36 years old at this point. He's super old for a champion, but it's not like Alex Pereira's old when Alex Pereira literally started fighting in the UFC, 4 years ago?
Yeah.
So I think Bilal just is at the end of his career, unfortunately, and how many more title defenses can you do when you're 37, 38 years old?
And no,
Especially when there's guys like Shop got here,
Dana
JDM
doesn't
here.
want him.
Ian Gary might even become a little better. Sean Brady could give him a good second fight. There's
Yeah.
so many guys in that division.
Also,
he dominated.
The
Sean
biggest
Brady
threat to his title is Dana White, also.
Yeah.
So,
No, but If your boss doesn't want you to do
Like-
have a certain job, you're probably not gonna have that job.
I'm so sick of him.
Probably why you gave him Shavkat.
Yeah.
As setting him up. All right, we'll roll with my final pick for who's going to lose their belt. Dricus du Plessis. Now, don't get me wrong. I like Dricus. I like the fights. He isn't a Bilal Muhammad. He's not boring. He does tend to just throw random stuff, hope it connects. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. I think he has the Grim Reaper waiting in Khamzat Chimaev. I think Khamzat is going to dismantle him. I love Dricus, and I even think if it isn't Khamzat, I think Strickland in a second matchup, I think that's going to be another part of that he's going to struggle with. And I think that he drops that belt next year, regardless of his opponent. Now, and I think he has a chance to get it back again, contention maybe. I don't know. I don't know what the future is going to hold for Dricus, but I think Khamzat, even Sean Strickland, could take it back.
Or if Pereira's a little scared of John Jones and wants that double belt, comes back down the middleweight.
That would be
No
fun.
one's talking about it.
I didn't
but
even think about that. It could.
He's going to at some point.
he
right?
wants the double belt.
But I think the writing's on the wall with Khamzat. I think he gets that fight next, even if it's not Dricus next for him. Even if he has to fight somebody before Dricus wants to come back, I still think he's going to meet him there. I think I think Khamzat is going to take the belt from DDP. So I agree.
Yeah, I think Dricus is one of the more beatable champions that are just in the UFC right now. I mean, I think Sean Strickland won that fight back in January personally.
Me too.
And then also, when you look down the division, Imavov probably not going to do it.
Nope.
I think Kyle Barral has a great chance personally. Also, Anthony Hernandez after that fight he had with Michelle Pereira. I think if he gets another fight or two,
Yeah.
he could
Not
definitely
yet,
contend by
but
the end
maybe.
of
But
the
we've
year.
seen
though.
Anthony Hernandez look kind of bad. He did look great in that fight, but there's been moments where I didn't love him.
His grappling just
It's
looks
out
so
as
great
well.
now, especially against a guy like Michelle Pereira, who is a known guy in the
That-
UFC to have
that's
some great
impressive.
grappling, not just jiu-jitsu, but also wrestling. I think he could definitely give Dricus some problems, especially since Dricus is one of these sillier fighters that we have in the UFC and could honestly lose to anybody he fights next.
The technique with DDP is what does it for me. I don't think he could stay on top that long with his current striking. He gets hit a lot. He has a very good chin, though. I think he's only been knocked down a few times in his career, but
His
I can't
cardio is-
confirm that.
He's out of this world. He's just Colby Covington at middleweight.
Yeah, he kind of
That's
is.
exactly what it is.
He kind of no. Colby's striking was like kind of good towards the later.
I think
fights.
their striking is very
You
similar.
think?
Yeah, just starting at 0.5%, like 50% every single strike, and then just eventually getting
If you beat Izzy
tired.
striking, then,
Putting
I
your
mean, I
head
guess.
down, running forward, just throwing 1-2s until it works.
That's what they both do, and then
And
they
he
try to
hit one
wrestle
of
you.
the best defensive fighters and knocked him down with Izzy. So
Exactly.
I mean, he can clearly do it.
We're going to move on to our final segment. We've been tasked to find the odd man out of 4 different UFC fighters. So let's see our first task. Who has not been champ?
Uber
Okay, well, Grasso has been.
Jan has been, and Henan Barral was.
So an over him, yeah.
Also came in at like 40-0, lost to Dillashaw, but it's Uberim.
Yeah, I can't believe Overeem was never a champion in the UFC.
That is
It is
crazy.
kinda
He
hard
was
to
so
believe.
dominant around like the mid-2000s.
He got one shot right against Miocic.
I
believe.
feel like he's got
He got
he's got the
his head
highlight.
pounded on the
Dominated.
canvas.
I feel like he's got the highlight tape that gets everybody in the UFC.
He went back to the Netherlands, started eating horse meat. Swear to God, he admitted on camera he eats horse meat.
Ew.
All right, well,
Yeah,
let's
he's
see.
a weird guy.
Is it Alistair Overeem? Yes, it
Oh.
is.
He's great though. He's been fighting since like back in Pride
Entertainer.
days.
He's great. He was pretty good with the mic too.
Also had one of the most fun fights ever
fun.
against Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that was a good one.
All right,
Both
let's
of them
see.
on so many steroids.
Let's see who we've got
the
next.
most.
Remember what happened to his lip? Sorry, we're moved on.
Who did not fight in 2018?
Lawler, Usman.
Oh,
I think
So,
Lawler
I
fought,
feel like this is
what's his name? Masvidal.
Holland.
I feel like this is Holland.
Yeah,
might
but
have been
Holland's
Holland.
first fight in the UFC was against Thiago Santos. But I'm trying to think
I don't
if that was
know.
that early.
I just remember. I don't remember him being significant until
No, yeah,
the
it was definitely
Vittori
in
fights, which I
2018.
think
I
was
want to
like
say it's Rob Font.
20.
Really?
Really?
Played in 2018.
Mm.
I feel
He's like a
Font
staple
did.
in the division.
Yeah. I don't know. Should we all pick different ones?
I'm gonna go Rob Font because
I'm
I
gonna
think
go Kevin- I'm going Kevin
Oh,
Holland.
I'll take Holland, I guess.
Rob.
Okay,
Wow.
we're all- okay.
Really?
Oh,
Really took that long of a break off.
I thought it's
I love
Masvidal in
Masvidal.
2018 before
I
Masvidal
guess
had the
that's-
fight with.
I guess it's right after he lost his
Covington.
title. Probably why.
oh, that would make sense.
Yeah.
Must be.
Right after he lost to Woodley.
All right, let's see our next 4.
It's not fun. What is it?
Since Galal versus Perez in the fight night.
That was like midsummer.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Oh,
Also,
there.
Nikolai just got cut from the UFC.
Izzy did,
Yeah, I
Usyk
did, I saw that.
did.
That's
Or
Oliveira.
something,
Oliveira's
yeah.
last fight was at
Charlie,
300.
Yeah.
Charlie
Yeah,
Olives.
it's Charlie Olives.
There it is.
Go.
There we go.
300. We were correct. Is there anything else?
He'll be
Is that all
back
we
soon,
got?
though.
He'll be back. He's gonna get the
Michael
Another
Chandler.
one? All right. Well, unfortunately,
Oh,
that is
yeah,
all the
no,
time
like
we
that.
have today. Thank you for watching. From myself, Pat, Alec, Chooch, thank you for watching. Stay tuned for next week. It's been 360 Sports.